Hello, happy holidays. Well, I just want to share my very first deck. It's called the Mythic Tarot. It's the very first one that I learned how to read with. And I wanted to do something special for the holiday season. And so, how I'm going to do it is I'm going to start by just kind of doing however many cards I kind of feel like doing until I feel like stopping. Usually I do 3, but because it is the holiday, we will just kind of free flow today. I won't be doing any readings with people with this deck because of the fact that it is out of print and really hard to actually find. Usually this deck would cost like, $215 and that's just used. But somebody didn't know what they were selling. So it is the original 1986 print. It just has that familiarity to it. So here we go. Start with the 3, of course. We will go from there. The Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands at this point in time in our life is really just finally taking that fire, finally understanding that it is to move yourself back up in the right type of direction that you were originally going for. It is coming back with a little bit of a vengeance. It's that force to be reckoned with because of the fact that you are that person that has to sometimes stand up and make those difficult decisions that other people just are not willing to do. Thing is, it is about picking the right type of battle, not just charging at any battle, not just charging at your neighbor, and definitely not trying to project onto them. Thing is, it's not your responsibility to change somebody or make them see something, but when other people do see it, then they are willing to fight, and they are willing to stand up in that situation. That is when you end up seeing things like the Six of Wands reversed. Others do end up following that type of suit because they have the common interest. It is a situation where you do see that sense of coming together, even though it's not always what we expect it to be. It's not always going to be with that type of family situation either. It's the other people that come into our lives. And at that point in time, you end up seeing this whole new spectrum of a new life. But then, with that life comes also a new emergence. With this new year coming in, and it's also we're entering that Mercury retrograde time. Here we go again. The Ace of Pentacles reversed. The thing is, it's not always about having that solid foundation. Not always about that. It's about creating that with the solidarity of those who are willing to build with you. One thing is, not very many people are going to always jump onto these bandwagons with us. They're not always going to see it our way. Just like I said in the beginning, you can't force somebody to see how you see things. But just like that, I get trolled all the time for my opinions. I get trolled all the time for calling something out as well. That's another situation that I want to talk about. I'm not trying to change the world. We are not here to change the world. All of us who see, all of us who have these abilities, we're not necessarily here to make you to actually see things our way. Thing about it is sometimes we have to lead by an example, and sometimes we have to do those difficult things for our own selves. This isn't about getting validation. This isn't about actually even giving anybody anything, actually. This is just about finally, well, if it resonates, the emotions will balance themselves out. I mean, yes, I am kind of dialoguing with that. So, while we look at temperance, understand that it is from filling one cup to another, because of the fact that when we are filling our own cups, trust me when I say, other people will see that and they will end up actually understanding what resonates. The thing about the temperance is the emotion that it comes with. It is to understand that everybody is actually going through it collectively, even though they have their own separate stories. We have the Page of Swords reversed right here. See, it's not always the person that we're battling, it was always ourselves, it was the reflection. What you see in this is what you pretty much get. It's one of those things where it's not always talking about karma. I'm not a karma person. One thing I do say about karma is sometimes you have to be that person's karma. Sometimes you are karma. Karma is not about punishment. It's not about this whole 3 times 3 thing, or even tenfold. It is simply finally going out there, going into that cycle, and being a part of all of those things. And the things that we experience has nothing to do with how we feel at that time. It has nothing to do with being depressed or negative. Sometimes you just need to be that type of negative to have a positive result. Sometimes you think you're on the right side of things, but then when you start to think for yourself, that is the emancipation. Once you start to use your own discernment and realize that you're using the Knight of Cups reversed, your own experience, your own sense of awareness. And once you start realizing that you're not following that herd and you're actually just finding your own voice, you stop trying to make the impact. Because then you realize that you are the muse. You are actually inspiring yourself to not always listen to what other people have to say. One thing I will say is people will criticize, people will judge you, people will try to make you feel shamed and stupid for your beliefs, and the thing is, we're not always going to be right all the time because we don't know everything. But one thing that it will say is that it's a whole lot better than it is to follow your own path than it is to follow someone else's that would lead you to emptiness. The one thing is we can turn the 10 of Cups around, and that's a situation where we finally have that sense of acceptance. All of these things with these cards that we're looking at, with the 5 of Pentacles especially, it's not walking away from success, it's actually just building your own. This next year is really going to be more all about that, especially with the King of Pentacles with that too. So, I can't tell you what's going to happen on a wide scale in 2023. It is the great unknown, and we fear the great unknown because, well, we don't really have a lot of good things to go by. These last couple of years have been full of a lot of bullshit. It's been a lot of division, a lot of racial segregation, and honestly domestic terrorist attacks and everything else going on in the LGBTQ community and of people of color. So, how can I sit here and tell you that everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows and that this is going to be a situation where everything's going to be just fine? It's not. It's going to be kind of grim. It's going to be hard, especially with the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is actually our personalities coming out. All of these areas, the dualness, that fight from within that I was talking about, well, understand that that fight from within has always been there. This isn't about good or evil or what path you follow, supremacy of who's more powerful. It is actually understanding that through all of that, when we finally realize that we can all learn from each other, that everyone has the same amount of ability and power, that is when you find that equality, that justice, that we are learning from each other, that we all want the same thing. But yet, we have to balance those scales. You cannot go through all of this with a misunderstanding, and therefore you have to finally understand that that tower had to happen. The destruction has to happen so that you can rebuild. It is not a jigsaw puzzle. It is a shattered mirror. It is all a reflection. And I think that these last few years can tell us that we had to face our own selves. And that was what it was. Discernment. Also finding those senses where you can finally be that person again Remember when I was talking about Dantalion and also where how that wrote linked to the High Priestess? This card I have been getting in every deck I read with, and this and same with the Tower and Temperance. But one thing I am gonna tell you with the High Priestess and this one right now is this is where you have to finally, once you understand and have your own discernment and you are walking that path and even having your own thought and you definitely form your own opinions about that, you're out of that loop, that false light loop that other people talk about. That false light is going to tell you to criticize, shame, and judge, and that only one supreme source is going to save you. No, you have to save yourself. Yes, there's other spirits out there. Yes, there's other forces. But the only thing that's going to sometimes get you out of this little place we call hell is yourself. That is the situation where the Queen of Cups knows that they are enough and knows that sometimes they're going to have to walk alone. They're going to have a lot of shame, ostracization. But the thing is, sometimes those things that are supposed to hurt you might end up becoming the very thing that helps you. Some of those things that people perceive as weaknesses turn out to be your strengths. And the only reason why they would ever shame you is because they fear what the unknown. They fear you because they actually wish they were like you, but they are in bondage, and it's not up to you to save them. It is time for them to save themselves, and that is the wisdom, that is the light, and that is the truest fight of all. Thank you.